Hola, season's greeting. I'm here to show you how to make a very rummy Christmas fruitcake. So the first thing we do is that we are going to cream some butter and sugar. We're adding 310 grams of sugar to 340 grams of butter.
The butter is room temperature. That AC room temperature, so it's not oil. That's very important to note.
Yes. So here we have our butter and sugar, and we're now going to cream this. So we've creamed our butter and sugar for just about 6 minutes, and this is what it looks like now. Okay. To this mix, so this creamed butter and sugar, I'll be adding 5 eggs, one at a time, and incorporating it very well so that it fluffs up some more. More air. It gets more air into the yes, it becomes aerated, and it becomes fluffier than it is right now. Okay, so that's what I'll be doing now. Okay, so while my assistant is cracking the eggs, I will be mixing our spices with the flour. We have here 340 grams of flour. This is 3/4 teaspoon of cinnamon powder, 3/4 teaspoon of grated nutmeg. I have 1/2 teaspoon of salt and 4.5 teaspoons of baking powder. I'm going to just mix this so that everything is well incorporated into the flour.
Why do you like making this cake or eating this cake?
I like making this cake, yes, because I love eating cake, and I'm able to make it not only at Christmas time but anytime I feel like it. And I want to really experiment with recipes, with this recipe in particular. No other recipe caught my fancy except Christmas fruitcake, because Mommy used to make a really great one, and I wanted to make one even better.
I do remember one year you forgot to put the baking powder. How was that for you?
Oh my goodness. Oh, I made this huge batch of cake, yes. And I don't know what I was thinking about, and I forgot the baking powder, and it was so heavy, but boy was it tasty and yummy. We had a bowl. She didn't want any, my daughter, she refused, but my sons and I ate it all up. It was great. And then I made another good batch, okay? So what I'm doing here now, I'm going to add the eggs one at a time, but just before I do that, I will scrape down the sides of the bowl so that everything's come center, okay? And you can actually see it's fluffier, how fluffy it is now.
A much lighter mix than when we started.
Yes, it is. Go ahead, one egg at a time. So we're gonna mix this in. I am going to use
I was just going to ask, how come you're doing this part with the spatula? It's easier for you?
No, because I'm doing it like this because I don't want the eggs to fly around and to spill out of the bowl when I start with the mixer. So that's why I'm doing it like this right now. You understand? The speed settings, if it's a very, very low speed, I could do it. But this one is a little faster. So see, that seems to be the lowest, and I didn't want the egg flying all over. If I don't get any of all of it in the mix at the moment, it will eventually all be incorporated. Second egg. Sometimes you might get more than one egg falling in there, but that's okay.
Just mix it.
You just mix it. Yeah, you just mix it and you continue.
It is a really nice cake, and what is interesting and that you will later find out is that we don't use molasses. A lot of people traditionally use molasses in their fruitcakes, their rum fruitcakes, which will give you a heavier cake, and the flavor is a lot more intense. So stay tuned.
Okay, so here I am. I'm finishing this off. And
but
that's it.
I really want them to notice how light her egg mix
Let me bring
this part of it is, because
Go ahead.
you will notice sometimes when you're making a cake that your egg looks like it's separating from this particular part of the method. And that happens when you either over cream your mix or under cream your mix. So this right here means that she did a wonderful job.
I'm just gonna scrape this down before adding one of our special ingredients. And that is the coloring, which comes from homemade browning.
Homemade browning.
Okay, to this mix, we're going to add 1 cup of browning. Some people use molasses, but I've never liked the taste of molasses, so I think this is as close to it as I could get.
This is really interesting because I never realized until I got older in life that they used to sell browning, because all my life my mom made browning. So it shocked me the difference between the store-bought browning and the homemade browning. There's nothing. It does not compare. This right here, perfection. For cakes, for stews, for everything.
It's not a thin mix. It's a little bit viscous. As you can see, it flows quite nicely. And it has even coated the inside of the cup that I'm using, the cup measure. So after it drains out, I would use a small spoon to remove the balance. I don't want to waste any of it.
That's when you know you have good stuff.
We mix this into the creamed butter, sugar, and egg mixture. We're mixing it. So it's all mixed in there. I don't put too much brown in because the fruit I'm going to cook is, to put into it is already very dark, because from having been soaked for so long, everything becomes dark and very lovely.
And how long do you generally soak or let your fruit soak? Do you do it on the stove at all?
I've never done it on the stove. I always do fresh, well, I say fresh, dried fruit, which I buy. I used to grind it up a long time ago with the that mill, but it becomes, I don't like that texture anymore. Years ago I stopped liking it, so I do a little bit in a blender. It's very difficult actually to do it in a blender, but I do a small amount with alcohol in a blender, after which I chop everything else.
You hand chop?
I hand chop everything else.
Intensive.
Yeah, I hand chop everything else. So I always look for lovely fruit to put into it. I tried making pomerac wine and cashew wine, and after it was almost ready, I threw everything in. After straining it, you strain off all the sediment and everything, the actual wine and fruit, cashew fruit and pomerac, I threw that in it, put alcohol. I buy fruit wines from my son's friend that I also add to the mix. I put rum, sherry, brandy, any kind of wines and rums I get, I put in there. And I have it soaking from one year into the next. If I take out anything, I replenish it, turn it up, cover it again, and it has been going for many years now. So what we're going to do now is add our flour mixture to the batter that we have here. I'm going to add it in 2 to 3 portions, okay? So for easier control and for proper mixing.
So I noticed that you have no milk in this recipe. I'm curious as to why.
I have no milk because I think the browning, I've always saw the browning and the fruit, which is loaded with alcohol, so there's a lot of moisture and liquid in there. It's sufficient enough for the cake. I don't want to put milk in a rum cake. I never thought about it because to me it didn't make sense.
Okay.
It just didn't make sense.
Is this, can you say that the lack of milk attributes to the cake lasting longer?
I do not know if I wouldn't say so. I think the alcohol in the cake and maybe the length of time I've had the cake, the fruit fermenting, is what adds to the longevity of this cake.
Okay.
Gradually incorporating the flour here. So now we are going to put our fruit. I am going to weigh the fruit out. You can use about 4 cups of fruit, which works out to be about 1,300 grams of fruit. And This is the fruit we have here. It has been soaking for quite a while. Okay.
I'm quite keen on seeing this fruit.
Would you like to see inside the fruit bottle? Yes. This is inside the fruit bottle.
I think it's important for our viewers to know that this is not all the fruit. We have a clay jar full of fruit. Those long time clay jars that tan color and brown bottom with just fruit in it. So this is some of the fruit. And in a lot of cultures, they do use clay jars to have things stay fermenting and or just keep for long periods of time. So there are properties to that clay jar.
So this is what we have here. However, now we have our secret ingredient. Our Angostura aromatic bitters. Now, as I said, I don't use lime and whatnot because I have alcohol. This is very, very good. A preservative. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Long 8. You put this in it.
You always use bitters in this recipe.
Always use bitters. I find it just fantastic. I love it. Okay.
I heard it in the fantastic. And it is.
All right, so we're gonna just gently mix this up here with the bitters. Although my these fruits that I have soaked do have bitters in them as well.
What's a little more?
Yeah, just enhances. Okay, so we're gonna put this in here. I usually put all at once.
But you're taking it.
Yeah, but I'll put half and half, okay? This recipe will give you 2 8-inch cakes, basically. If you wish to have a bigger cake, you use a bigger container. Of course, you may end up with a little bit where you get a small cake. I could use this in a 9 by 13 as well. And then I'll get a very small one. Or I can use those very small or the many sizes of aluminum foil containers that they have out there on the market. I find those are very good as to give us gifts, actually.
Yes, I have seen that.
Yes, so I would do that. So I'm putting the balance of the butter into this mix into the batter here. I think that's cool. And so we are mixing this up. You mix until it's very gently, because again, as I said, the flour is in here and we don't want it to develop too much gluten to become a tight dumpling or anything like that. So we very gently try to incorporate the fruit as well as possible. So we turn and fold, and you're not seeing any bits of flour there. It's all well mixed in. And while I'm mixing, I scrape the bottom of the bowl with the spatula to make sure I pick up anything that probably hadn't been mixed in before. So everything comes to the top. We have prepared 2 pans already. We've just done some greaseproof paper at the bottom of the pan, and I'm going to add a little bit of shortening just to the sides. Not much, just a small amount of shortening to the sides. Just to rub the sides here. 1 there. Because I don't want the cake to stick and burn, but it's not necessary to have paper there because this cake has enough butter or oil in it, I should say, to stop it from sticking to the side of the pan.
Very nice.
This 8-inch pan can take about 1446 grams of butter, and we just knock it down. Make sure that there are no air bubbles in there. And that's it. And as you can see, it's just about 3/4 of the pan, just a little bit over. Yeah, almost to the top. When it bakes up, it actually rises probably to the top of the pan, and then it settles back down to just what you have put in it. So you don't get a cake that's lower than what you have put in it.
Okay.
That's what happens. It stays about this size, you know. Nice. And that's it. After we pan our batter, we put it in the oven for about 50 to 60 minutes. 50 minutes at 350 degrees Fahrenheit, about 170 Celsius. Of course, you must know your oven. You know what bakes well for you. When you bake for about 45 to 50 minutes, you check your cake then. Do not open the oven in the first 15 to 30 minutes. Don't open it. You check, you take it out and you use a skewer, a toothpick to test to see how it's going. And it should be basically almost done. And you put a mixture of, like this. This is sherry brandy and rum. I've mixed together in a bottle here. 1 cup of rum and 1.5 cups of sherry brandy that I mix. I will then, at that point in time when I open the oven the first time to test it, I would put a 1/4 cup of this mix over it and put it back in the oven for the next 10 to 20 minutes or so. And then after that, it should be done. When your skewer comes out just with looking kind of greasy, it's done. If it comes out with batter, it's not finished. Okay, and this is how we make this Rummy Christmas cake. All right. This cake was prepared 2 days ago actually. Today's the 3rd day since I baked it. Reason being that when we have baked this cake, we are not going to cut it for a few days yet. Normally I would leave my cakes for about a week before I cut them. I would turn them out from the pan after they are cooled. I turn them out onto a plastic, wash the pans, and take the plastic with the cake and put it back in the pan. And thereafter, I start wetting it regularly, might be twice a day or once every other day, with the rum and sherry brandy mix. That's because I want it to stay moist. And every time I wrap it, I would cover it over with plastic. I have plastic underneath, and I put plastic at the top, and I cover it over and cover it. So I'm not really storing it as yet. After I've done that for about a week, then I would put it in a cake container, and we can then eat from it. Okay, so this is our cake, and I'm going to taste it. You're seeing the size, you can see it's really nice. It was cooked really well. So, here we go. Beautiful. Truly rich, full of rum. I don't like rum at all, but I don't like to drink rum, I should say, but I love eating it. Tastes really good. Can you let that one go? Thank you. Thank you very much for watching this baking segment. I am very happy to have shared it with you. You can tweak it and make it your own by adding other things to it and making it truly yours, as I did. I took a simple recipe from years ago that my mother had, and I made it my own. As they say, baking is art and science, and I love art, and I have enjoyed the science of baking this cake. Thank you very much.
I would like to say thank you as well to Angostura and to eatahfood for having us present this particular Christmas rum cake. I do know the viewers, when they try it, they are going to enjoy it. It is delicious. If it is you are a lover of alcohol, you definitely will be eating this cake every day, and you have to stop yourself and say, hold up, let's try and save some for the next day.
Or the next person. Okay.